morning. Happy Friday to you. I want to use the word excited, but I am grateful to be able to present to you for the next couple of weeks something that's near and dear to my heart. It is the reason for the B Major team. We have been talking for the month of September because it's Suicide Awareness Month, just bringing light to mental health and to suicide and how it affects families and how the ripple effects that it does have. And today I have a brave friend with me, Miss Laura Christie, and she has agreed to share Thomas's story with you today. And I am really honestly just thankful that
Thank you.
It's tough, y'all. It is not easy to share a story of someone that you've lost in this manner. But I think it needs to happen because it needs to not be so taboo. It needs to not be so out of this realm that we can't have conversations. So tell us a little bit about who you are and your family. And we already have Kleenexes ready. But this is the reason for this is that this is a platform that I have. And how can I not be major if we're not talking about things that are hard?
Right. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And my name is, as Nicole introduced me, Laura Christie. And I'm going to reach for Kleenex already. Some of you may be familiar with me. You know me in this small town, Fort St. Joe.
Yep.
And I have a husband. I'm married to Dan. And through him, I have a bonus daughter and 3 grandsons. And I have 4 children that I brought into this world in my first marriage. And one lives here. I have a new grandson here.
And he's adorable.
Yeah, I don't get enough of that little guy. And so the birth order, I had Will and then Thomas, and then the girls, Geneva and Allie. So the first 3 kids were all born very closely, 18 months apart. I had a number of miscarriages before I had any of them. And anyway, I was able to have normal pregnancies and was told have as many kids as you can while you can. So I did.
Well, if the doctor's order is such.
So getting right to Thomas, he, out of 4 children, he was the second born. And Thomas, from the time he was just a toddler, he was always the kid that I thought, he always entertains himself. He doesn't ask for anything. He always wanted others to be taken care of. And even he attended Auburn University for 4 years. And even his friends, after he died, shared with me that Thomas was the one that he didn't care what we did. He just wanted everybody to have a good time, and he went along with it. So
I think that's a common theme.
And so it's been 7 years. Next week, it'll be 7 years and 5 months since Thomas decided to leave this world, and he's in the presence of Jesus now. I believe that with all my heart. And I look back, and I think a normal thing is when you have a family member who has taken their life, especially being a mom, you think, what did I miss? What did I miss?
Absolutely.
And there were some things going on, I think that maybe added to whatever he was dealing with. His dad and I had a very long, drawn-out separation and then divorce. It was over 6 years. It was nothing that I wanted. And Thomas prayed, and one of his sisters, none of the kids, they didn't want their family unit to break up.
Yeah.
And that was very hard on Thomas. And what I learned after he died is that, or maybe before, that he had a girlfriend, a sweet girl, who had broken up with him right before Christmas. And anyway, there were just things going on. I lived on the West Coast. He had flown out to spend a family Christmas. And there was a lot of just things that were happening with his dad and putting the kids in the middle. And it was horrible. And that's important, I think, to bring up, because he went back to Auburn, and the first I ever heard of him wanting to take his life was about 4 months after, 4 months after that. So I won't get into all those details, but I go back to that time. I keep going back in time and did I miss it? What did I miss? What did I miss? And something that I feel that I'm not responsible for Thomas's death. So whoever's listening and you have someone who's taken their life, it is not your fault.
Amen.
It is not your fault. Don't carry that guilt with you. But what I realized with my children is they were my focus, as they should be. And I made sure they had what they needed. They were all involved in what they wanted to be involved in, church, sports, academic teams, whatever. And we did have some table. We always ate dinner together. It's a family, the kids and I. But I never got to the hard questions with them.
Right.
And we moved around a lot. Sometimes the kids were in 2 different school districts in 1 year. But we moved a lot. And if they seemed fine to me, or I just said, oh, you'll be fine. And I should have dug deeper, because I think that's when they really start to deal and internalize things when they're teenagers. And if they don't have someone in their home or a good friend or a parent, it should be a parent that they can just be real with and honest, like, I'm really sad or I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
And be able to talk about it. I didn't do that. I wish I would have taken the time when they alluded to that to say, well, tell me more about that. Instead, my reaction
dig a little
was,
deeper.
oh, well, it'll go away. You'll be fine. Give it a week. And I didn't dig deeper.
Yeah.
So that's a takeaway. I wish I could go back. Maybe it would have changed things. I don't know. Here's a picture of Thomas. This is one of my favorite pictures of him. I don't know how close I have to get it. This was taken when he was probably 5 or 6.
It was a Halloween.
And so my mom is awesome, and she's an awesome grandma. And she sent the kids costumes all the time. I think this was a Disney Lion King costume or something.
That's cute.
We had a trunk with costumes, but he had quite a vivid imagination. And he was always that Thomas was not the sad kid. He was smiling. And in getting back to, teenagers and moving around, I found out things later on too that just broke my heart. He was a handsome looking young man. He was just the nicest young man. And I think he put up with some forms of bullying from other kids that he never spoke of to me. And just little bits and pieces of things going back and thinking, that was not normal. Like, why? Yeah, I should have dug deeper on that or gone further. So all these things, I think, contributed to maybe just a helpless feeling. I have no background in psychiatry, psychology. Thomas went off to Auburn and he was a psychology major.
Oh, wow.
So he understood a lot. When he took his life, his 4th year of college, he had changed to study marine biology, and he loved the water. Some of you may remember Thomas. This is what he looked like as an adult. I don't want to glare on
I know,
here.
right? There you go.
So it's Team Thomas. I actually participated in a walk to raise funds for suicide awareness through the American Foundation of Suicide Prevention. And they have programs for advocacy and how to go into schools and to talk with your kids. But I love this picture of him. This was taken in Bulgaria the summer before he died. He came, that was in 2014. And he participated. He was one of the Auburn kids that came down here and did outreach work in 2013 and 2014 and for spring break. And through him, I met my current husband. Nobody ever tried to hook me up with somebody else. But anyway, he kept saying, Mom, you love Dan. He loves the Lord and he loves nature. And so finally, it was through struggles that Thomas started to go through that a psychiatrist, when Thomas was hospitalized at UAB in the psych unit there for a week, asked me what's happened. And I said, I don't know, because I haven't lived near him for 4 years. I've been all over the country living and all over the country. And so reached out to some close friends and to Dan. He had stayed at Dan's house with the kids, the group of young men, the college kids in that program. So that's how my connection with Dan. And kind of a little side note, but it's bittersweet that I ended up, my current husband, that Thomas had lived in the house that I ended up living in, not the one we live in now.
Right.
That Dan had built with the blueberries all those years. And Thomas had been there before me and made memories. And slept in the room that his sister ended up having, and it's just, yeah, looking back, it's like, like my current husband has memories with Thomas before I even came into his life.
Right.
So, but anyway.
Which that's a special connection.
Yes, it is. And I think death, when someone we love dies, we hang on to whatever we can.
For sure.
And to be able to share that with my husband now, some of those memories or stories that I hadn't heard, it's very special.
Yeah.
But anyway, Thomas, some people leave a note, some people don't. Thomas was very loving and thoughtful, and he did leave a note for his best friend and for his family. And he shared that this is what I don't understand, but I just thank God he doesn't deal with this, that the pain was so much that he didn't want to take his life, but it was the only way he knew how to end the pain. And I think so many of us think like, well, why do people take their life? And that's just a form of anger, or and maybe it is to a certain extent, but to have that much pain, whatever's causing it, and that's the only way they see out. And he wrote that he didn't want to die.
Right.
But he didn't know any other way. And he's such a gentle soul. I mean, he even did it in a very gentle way. There was no, a horrific scene or anything. So, it's, and I know, So for those of you that are survivors of family members or loved ones surviving someone who's taken their life, it's just hard for me to come on here. I still don't know what's going to come out of my mouth.
Same.
But just know that by sharing your story or listening to someone else for that moment, it may really have helped them, or really helped them. There are a lot of details I'm leaving out. I went through, Thomas was over the age of 18. I went through everything I could and to fight to get him help. And the mental health system is so, in my opinion, it's so broken.
Yeah.
They do what they can, but they don't have enough resources. And Thomas, I forgot to mention this, it's important. He did not want help. Things were happening with him, the issues he was dealing with. And I believe Thomas, I also believe he had a chemical imbalance. I believe some of it, I very much believe every word in the Bible. I believe some of it was spiritual warfare.
Yeah.
He wanted to share the gospel, and that's what he was focusing his life on, coming here, going on mission trips outside the country. People that he worked with, he had a job at Auburn working with geriatric patients on the weekend and helping them, and he wanted to share the gospel. And we all know the more that you want to do that, the enemy wants to take you out. And for those of you listening that believe it, you understand. For those of you that don't,
it's a real thing.
It's a real thing.
For sure.
So he had, I think, a lot of different, I won't know until I get to heaven. Then it won't matter.
Yeah.
So he did not want help. It's so hard to help someone that doesn't want help, because now with the laws over the age of 18, HIPAA, can't get any information. I actually talked to the probate judge of Lee County in Alabama at the time. I don't know if he's still there, but he said there's really nothing you can do.
Yep.
And so
something that we did. So I have two girls that are, in their 20s and currently not married. And we've been talking about it, and I've got to get it done, is that I want to get a medical, basically the ability to make decisions for them on a medical basis, because if something happens to them, they're adults and we can't make that decision. And I think that's very important, that as your children age before they get married, there's that space between 18 and mid-20s that, there's still your responsibility. I mean, that you have your children, but there's still your responsibility that you can have something. I don't know what side would be mental health. That would definitely be something that I would, want to check into.
Yes. For sure. And it can still, that's a great point. And they can still fall through the cracks. Thomas got him in a week in UAB psych ward, got him in a Christian counselor at Auburn, and sat in on the first appointment because whenever there's a threat of the client, Thomas's, taking someone else's life, which wasn't the case, or his own, they want someone else to sit in. And I did. And we came to an agreement. We all three, Thomas agreed that if he stopped coming to the sessions, I was to be contacted. Well, he stopped going in December. And Thomas, of course, was not going to tell me that. I never got a call from the counselor. And he took his life on April 8th. So, you can't blame anyone, but it's so, my point of sharing that is another, falling through the cracks again, falling through the cracks again. So, and maybe, I know you've had this in your life as well, had to, you're on, what do you call it? There's no word. You don't want to be the receiving end, but you're the one left to deal with a loved one taking their life. And not perhaps, it's just getting rid of the stigma of mental health. You break your finger, you go to the doctor. You got a headache, you take, or migraine, you go to the doctor, you get medicine. Any illness, but mental illness, people put such a horrible stigma, like, oh, you're not qualified to, you're not all, I don't know what. Anyway,
well, and they, the last thing that anybody that's going through depression or anything like that needs to hear is like, oh, you'll get over it. Just get happy. Like there are some really great methods that you can do to get your mindset in a different space. Like so you're in this space and you can turn it, but you have to be so mindful and so aware and so on top of that if someone's really far down that rabbit hole, it's, they'd have to just completely live an entire different mental space that they've never lived in, or it's been so long they do not remember. Like the brain does not remember how to get back to that. And so, I've been working through that with our girls. I'll be honest, like our girls struggle with anxiety and depression, and they didn't have as much of this until after we lost Brandon. When we lost Brandon, then it kind of kicked in, and there's we work through it a lot. So I've done a lot of research on this, and mental health is a real thing. And I have asked both of my children before if they felt suicidal. I cannot be afraid to ask the question anymore. I will not be afraid to ask it anymore. Like, do you feel like taking your own life? Like, I think it just, as awful as it is to come out of your mouth, it's more awful not to ask.
I've done that with one as well. And it's a hard question, but if you don't ask it, you don't want to live through not having asked it. And then if they take their life.
Or showing the sincerity that you care.
And I want to share something else about going back about the stigma. So Thomas got saved his freshman year of college. He loves, and he's in the presence of Jesus. He loves the Lord. Two things. So Thomas wasn't the guy, he wasn't the kid that drank or did drugs in high school or hung out, just a recluse. I don't know. I don't want to label people, but I'm talking about the kid. He was, always getting the laughs, and he was active in the band. He was active in drama. He was active. He liked tennis. He liked swimming. He did all kinds of things. And when he was in college, he hosted, he loved the Mario games, and he would host gaming sessions, and they would watch like, he would have it at his apartment, and everything with him was like, rated G, clean, all that stuff.
Mario Kart.
So I think a lot of people were surprised, and because he was a Christian, or is a Christian. So, and listen, depression, because you love Jesus doesn't mean it's not going to touch you. If you want to go on, start researching the pastors that have taken their lives. People, it's not because they need more Jesus. They love Jesus. They have the Holy Spirit in them. They have whatever's going on in their life. It's like it's spiritual warfare, chemical imbalance. I don't know, but it's very real.
It is real.
I had, let me just leave it at that. I had people in my inner close circle allude to the fact that,
Yeah.
that it was, not enough Jesus. And I thought, oh, this is where it all starts going.
Yeah, that's where it does
the
start
mindset.
to go.
So Thomas was a highly functioning, he was a highly functioning, depressed individual. And I never heard that term until I had these buttons made. I raised money. It was before COVID up in Nashville. Oddly enough, it was on his birthday in 2019, Team Thomas. And the speaker that day talked about her son, and he was a highly functioning young adult, just like Thomas, college kid. And she was like talking about my son. He was involved in all these activities. Yep. He loved to help people. He held down a job. He was in college. He got, awesome grades in high school and college, and yet he ended his life. Yeah. So he wasn't holed up in some dark apartment. Right. And some people do that.
Yeah.
And I realize that, but it doesn't wear a face.
Yeah.
Depression doesn't
have boundaries. Like it can affect so many. So. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Is there anything else that, we want to, of course, let you know that if for some reason you are feeling depressed and have a feeling of taking your own life, the suicide hotline is now not 1-800-SUICIDE. They've simplified it to just 988. So you can just dial 988. You'll get somebody on the phone immediately that can talk to you, that will help you through any kind of situation. Honestly, my phone number is 850-247-8415. Call me, text me. Like if you're just feeling like that you need someone to talk to, like I'm open to that. It's like I'm happy to do that. And I think out of anything, all of us want to feel heard and valued and loved, and I'm here for that.
And we have a lot of young adults, and that's very kind of you. I hope you wrote that down. The numbers, yeah. And it's so I don't know. I'm going to twist my words up here. I don't know how to reach the youth in this town. My heart goes out. There are some youth that are really, really struggling in this little town, and some of it's situational. Some of it is just the situations they're in. Some of it is they outwardly have a great home. They're just suffering from depression. Mm-hmm. I don't know how to reach these kids. I hope, if I could help whoever's listening in something with just spending time with youth. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to be a mental health counselor, but just that you care.
Giving them a reason to look forward to the next day, to the next
someone
minute.
That cares about them. I mean, how many times do we go through a day and maybe you don't have a conversation with anybody, or there's how many, I guess you have your, I don't want to get into this, but social media I've heard can be very cruel. I'm not in Facebook and social media at all, but with the teenagers and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So my prayer is that you put your hope in Jesus, and however, I'm going to see Thomas again. That's the only thing that keeps me going, is I will see him again in heaven. And if I can help in some way, help anybody, and especially the kids, to keep them away from that, and
in all things show kindness and love and respect. Smile at somebody. Like you just never know what that one interaction of saying good morning, how are you, like speaking to somebody who may not have had anyone speak to them. So
and just taking time. Mm-hmm. We have a lot of
time is precious,
and our the grief, it doesn't end. And the deeper you have loved someone, whether it's, for me, my son, for some of you, it may be a pet, but the deeper that you have loved someone or something and it's no longer there, the deeper the grief, and nothing replaces it. Mm-hmm. So if you're dealing with someone that, or someone who they're always going to grieve if they've had loss in their life of a loved one. And it's, let them talk about that person. And it's a good thing. People don't want to talk about Thomas.
Let them say,
I think they think I'm going to cry.
Name.
Yeah. And it's just, I love to hear stories about him, because people have stories that even here in this town, I wasn't with him those times. And just like with Brandon. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I love
So-
it when people will say, "Oh my gosh, remember when blah 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 with Brandon?" I'm like, "Oh, tell me those." Like, I love that.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear that. Yeah.
So, well,
It's always
thank you
good.
for
Thank you.
letting me share.
I
about
appreciate
Thomas.
it. Again, the number is 988 if you need some help. If not, give us a shout. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I know it's not really easy, but I think it's worth the message. So anyway, enjoy your Friday. Go love each other.